chance to get to Autodesk's hands-on labs during the course of the show and get some hands-on time. Those labs are actually delivered from the cloud using Frame. Obviously we've partnered with Autodesk for a long time, in order to deliver a number of different workflows from the cloud. But what I want to talk about today is how a lot of leading architectural design and engineering firms are using the cloud to improve collaboration and deliver, I'd say, workspaces to users that need them when they need them. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Frame, Frame's a cloud platform that lets you install Windows applications and access them through a browser on any device. Our founders started this company with the idea about 5 years ago. They were writing very high-end video analytics applications for the intelligence community, taking drone video footage and doing video inspection, doing object detection, feature extraction. And what they realized is nobody was able to deliver high-performance interactive applications from a data center to just a browser. So we started with that vision. We're 5 years in, and a number of big companies have recently come in and invested in Frame. First, Microsoft Ventures is a big investor of Frame. Second, In-Q-Tel, who is the VC arm of the US intelligence community, is also an investor of Frame. So we've been delivering applications like the one across the hall over here, Esri, from the cloud to customers that want to deliver the most secure information and air gap it from the device so the data never touches the device. It all stays in the cloud and gets streamed through a browser. Since we came from the desktop software world, we started working with all the ISVs first. We helped them do internal beta QA programs, online training, the training that Autodesk is doing here, a number of other use cases all the way through into software as a service. So PTC is working on a service they call PTC Creo in the cloud, which connects their Creo mechanical design tools with Windchill. So it's fully managed in the cloud for you. We've also been working with service providers like VMware as a notable one, who's licensed our platform and connected it into Workspace ONE. They call it Workspace ONE App Express. So you can quickly and conveniently connect Windows applications into their mobile device management solutions. And as I mentioned, we've been very focused on intelligence communities, and a lot of the security requirements that we see in that federal space actually spill into architecture, engineering, construction companies that are specifically working on public sector projects like roads, bridges, highways, things that are considered critical infrastructure have to be managed with the same level of security going forward with new regulations that are coming out. Those regulations are called CUI. They stand for Controlled Unclassified Information. And our platform helps simplify that security burden for you. But what makes Frame different is 5 years ago we said, hey, Citrix, VMware, Microsoft technology isn't fast enough and scalable enough to run in public cloud infrastructure. So let's redesign and reimagine app delivery that can run on public cloud infrastructure. We use all cloud native APIs. That means we start and stop infrastructure very elastically and dynamically. As users log in, your data center scales up. As users log off, it shuts down. We're infrastructure agnostic, so we can run across AWS and Azure. Between the two, there's 43 data centers globally today. They're investing another $10 billion in data center build out this year. So those data centers just keep popping up through Frame as new regions that you can push applications to. What this means is you can put your desktop applications as close to your users as you need to, literally anywhere in the world. The platform is also very extensible. We have a rich ecosystem of partners. You can connect your own identity systems into Frame very easily, and I'll talk about this. We also announced today a partnership with Panzura, which really is going to speed up the deployment of these workspaces connected to a high-performance storage fabric, and Greg will talk about that a bit as well, and then do a quick demo. But in order to serve the AEC community, the things that we need to be able to do is ensure, obviously, application performance is just the same as you have at your desk. It's accurate, it's interactive, it's high performance. We need to make sure that you've got high performance storage that you can read to and write from, and have that storage synchronized seamlessly to all your offices. The nice thing about the Panzura technology is it delivers global file locking. So if you have 30 offices, one that's in the US, and a user opens a file off that US file system, users in other regions will know somebody's editing it, so you don't get change conflicts, which is very nice for like Revit files, for example. We've also, as I mentioned, spent a lot of time in this compliance region, trying to make sure our platform gives you all of the access controls and logging that you need to comply with NIST 800-171, which is the standard you have to comply with for these CUI requirements going forward. The other benefit of the cloud is you don't have to build a data center. It's pay as you go, infrastructure spins up and you pay for what you use. There's one vendor whose throat you get to choke if the stuff doesn't work. In your own data center, there's like eight vendors that you're dealing with, and you're trying to figure out whose problem it is, and everybody points fingers at everybody else. I came from NVIDIA. I was NVIDIA's first general manager of their grid business. I worked with Citrix, I worked with VMware, I worked with all the hardware OEMs. And the reality is, to do a 10-person pilot in the on-prem world takes 3 to 6 months and a $50,000 budget just to get stuff set up and get basically used on the environment. In the cloud, that same 10-user pilot can be set up in a day. That's the speed difference of the cloud versus on-prem. It's also, a pilot in the cloud is effectively free versus that $50,000 you have to pay on-prem. And that's true as you scale as well. What's also nice in the cloud is, as you have users that are coming on and you have cyclical project cycles, that infrastructure can scale up when you need it to, and it shuts down when you're done with the project. You're not buying a data center and trying to depreciate it over 4 years and trying to, forward project your capacity, which is unreasonable. It just dynamically scales as you need it. These data centers, as I mentioned, are all around the world right now, more coming online. And the way that Frame generally works is, there's a control plane, which I'll show you in a little bit. You log in, you get access to a Windows image, you install applications on that one image, and they automatically get onboarded into our platform. When you're done building that template image, you set your capacity to how many users you want to support. If it's 50, like what Autodesk is doing in each of the labs, you set your maximum to 50, you hit publish, and then the platform automatically stamps out 50 copies of that operating system for those users to connect to. We can run a number of different instance types depending on how much compute performance you need. But in the labs, we're running Azure NV6 systems, so it's 56 gigabytes of system memory, 6 CPU cores, and a dedicated NVIDIA Tesla M60 GPU per user. We also can, in enterprise deployments, we connect into companies' single sign-on, so that your on-prem AD syncs to single sign-on, and that's how your users authenticate into Frame. That way you have one single identity system to log users into. We typically are also working with partners to spec out what their storage needs are, so data gets automatically migrated into the environment. One of the slickest solutions is Panzura, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And then once it's all set up, it's all available in a browser, so you can run these applications in a browser on any device. To show you this, before I go into more technical details, I'll have Greg from Panzura do a quick demo of Revit, obviously running on a MacBook.
Hi guys. So how do we flip over to, sure. So I'm going to show you a lab we set up, which is running Revit, but it is linked to, so Revit is running on Frame's desktop, but it's linked to a lab that we set up with our own Panzura controllers. So this is 2 virtual private clouds, 2 separate clouds. We just build a tunnel between them to connect. So when I go to open here in Revit, you'll see that if I come down here, this Y drive is mapped to a server, this IMD West filer. Because we built this tunnel, now I can just call my server by its server name, map a drive to it, just like it was a server on my local area network. So then I can come onto this server, I can go into some folder structure, find a file, go and grab, this is a central model. I'm gonna open this up, it's gonna overwrite my existing, and the performance up here is very much, it's just a LAN network performance. It's as good as your local area network. And so the model opens up. You can come in here, you can see the performance is really good. This is kind of a base level machine spec for Frame. You can do even better than this. This is also a very simple model, but you can come in and see the performance is just fine. I can borrow elements, drag them, everything I would normally do. What's important to keep in mind here is I could be one person working in the cloud off of Frame, and I could have a whole nother set of people working in an office on a local Panzura and working in the same model at the same time. We're all collaborating together. So this is why Panzura is a hybrid system. It allows you to do on-site prem storage, plus it backs everything up to the cloud, and all we're doing is accessing that same cloud data through the cloud, running a machine instance in the cloud. So I can do all of this. You can see if I come into a 3D model, I can come in and rotate this, orbit this model, and my performance is really good working on even a simple, even though it's a simple model, the performance is quite good. And then I can come in here, if I hop back over here, I can start a sync with Central, run it, and in a couple seconds my sync with Central is going to be done. You're going to see the scroll bar jump and I'm done. So I've just synced my model back to my Panzura environment. My storage is all in Panzura, but I can have consultants working on Frame. I can have my own employees who might not be able to make it into the office. I don't have to set up all my VDI instructors, and on top of that, they could be located anywhere around the US, and I don't have to set up VDIs for all of them to work from. This will work anywhere. So I'll let Justin go back to his thing now.
Thanks, Craig. I think that obviously clearly demonstrates the power of being able to work through a browser on any device. The way that we set this up and the way that we deliver this level of performance what's different with Frame. Whoops, let me not share this. I'd like to present this. Is what we do is we connect every user with their own isolated virtual machine. We're not doing terminal services. We're not using RDP. We've rewritten our own protocol to be able to deliver this rich interactive experience from basically a dedicated workstation running in the cloud. We start with non-persistent pooled virtual machines, meaning when a user logs out, the system is wiped, so there's no residual information stored on that system. So users have to learn to save, obviously, to cloud storage like the Panzura. What we also can do, though, is we turn on user profiles in the environment. So if a user has their menu options set, we can save those user profiles off at the end of the session and then re-inject them back into the VM before the user logs in. The way that a basic account gets set up on Frame is we start with a sandbox. The sandbox is your gold master image. You install the applications. When you're done, you hit publish, and I said we stamp out those copies of your production instances for users to connect into. We can also run other services in the environment, so if you need a license server for some applications, we can run a license server in the environment. Autodesk's EULA does not allow us to run a license server in the cloud, so you have to connect via VPN to an on-prem license server, but anyways, that allows those licenses to float from on-prem to the cloud easily. Just through a VPN tunnel. It's like a site-to-site network connection. Also, if you guys have MPLS, we can obviously connect into your MPLS fabric. We also can run multiple user groups off of this environment. So we might have user group 1 that needs a workstation that's designers, and user group 2 or office productivity users. We can display different sets of applications off of that image to different groups of users and give them different infrastructure options. So we can kind of balance what people need there. And finally, we've got this construct where we've got the ability to have a super admin access. You can see all the accounts under your super admin, and then drill into any one of those accounts very seamlessly. So obviously Frame has spent a lot of time rewriting everything that had to do with virtualization. The clients, the remoting protocol, the brokering, the orchestration layer. So this is all frame written. It's not licensed from anybody, but this allows us to really take advantage of best of breed new APIs to deliver these rich interactive experiences. To give you an example of how one partner, which is KPF, has used the combined technology from Frame and Panzura. They previously had 3 Citrix data centers trying to support remote usage. And what they found was, frankly, projecting capacity and delivering a rich experience was difficult to do at best, and it was very complex to manage, and they wanted to get out of that business. They wanted to be able to deliver people working from home the ability to log in through any browser on any device, get access to the same project files when they're on the road or in client offices, have a solution, and then one of the nice things of the cloud is it will dynamically scale. So if you have a DR event, like the hurricane and floods in Houston, and you can't get to the offices, you can have users log in remotely through a browser and work from anywhere. And we've seen a lot of that happen with the recent hurricanes, floods, fires across the country. The other thing is, if you have small offices and you don't want to invest all the infrastructure into, I guess, building out that office with local NASs and such, you can deliver those offices from the cloud, and we see more and more of that happening. So the way KPF kind of fully got deployed using this was, we started in New York. They had their master Panzura controller in that office. Those controllers were connected to all their other regions. So in every office, everybody saw the same project files. We basically added a virtual Panzura controller in AWS in this case. That virtual Panzura controller connects into the S3 bucket, which is the single source of truth for all data globally, and basically acts as a local cache there. Users that log in get connected into their own workstation in the cloud, and they read off of that Panzura controller. It just shows up as a map drive in the environment. So same exact files you'd see off your physical machine in the office, you then see as you log in through this machine in the browser, and gives you the ability to work from anywhere and scale up and scale down as you need it. So the last thing that they did, that they wanted their users doing, is obviously logging in through their corporate identity system. They didn't want another identity sitting out there in the cloud and have to manage users in and out of that. So what they did is they were moving to Office 365. When you add Office 365 in your company, basically you're also turning on Azure AD, which is connected into your on-prem AD, and you can connect that Azure AD into Frame. What it looks like to the users when they log in, and we'll do just this, in the KPF environment, they'd see this Frame button, they click on it, and what happens is they see the Azure AD login. They log in with their standard corporate identity, and then they get brokered into a workspace on Frame, and they can run their applications from there. So that's kind of how it all comes together in the end. So that's kind of a quick overview of how Frame is working with partners like Panzura and architecture engineering companies to deliver the flexibility of cloud-based workspaces.
Calculate how data is calculated for the cost per month. How can we figure out how that's calculated as far as data going back and forth?
How can you figure out the synchronization costs?
Oh, synchronization costs?
Like the data transfer costs?
You know what, it's the syncing cost in and out for most of our customers.
For most of Panzura's customers, they find the syncing cost is negligible compared to the storage costs. The storage costs are a fairly easy calculation of how much data you have and how many gigabytes per month. The syncing in and out, because Panzura compresses, dedupes, we only send up the differences in files, and since we're caching it locally, you're rarely pulling it back down. You're not charged for pushing data in, you're only charged for pulling it back out. It's very rare. About 3% of the data that's accessed off of our systems is pulled from the cloud. The rest is all worked off of locally. So you end up with very minimal in-out charges for any of the services. It's all a calculation of really the storage cost. I'm sorry. Say that again. The 1 gigabyte is the storage of a gigabyte is about 2 cents a month, and the in-out charges will be very minimal. It'll be fractions of pennies for that model. Really, we measure storage in terabytes because really it's not even worth considering gigabytes. So. because it only really becomes a significant charge. I think it's what, $25 a month for terabytes, and like I said, the in-out charges is pennies on that $25.
Do we have any other questions for Greg or for Justin? All right, wonderful. Well, let's give Justin Boitano with Frame and Greg Lessner with Panzora a big round of applause for that wonderful presentation. Also, I would like to invite you on the other side of this wall, visit some of our Frame reps at their demo stations. They would love to give you a demo. Thank you so much for joining us for our first presentation. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy the second day of Autodesk.